Well, we have some fun guests with us this morning that I'm super excited about. We've got a lot of people joining us this morning. Maybe you're joining us online, maybe in the Access venue or over at our Bellevue campus. It's great to have you with us this morning. It's great to have you here in the room with us this morning. I'm excited about these guests that are here. Many of you may have connected with the show The Biggest Loser, right? More than millions and millions of people watched that show. And if you follow the show at all, you know that tonight their next season is kicking off. But we got to know a few characters named Mark and Buddy, if you followed the show at all, and they're here with us this morning. And I'm excited to hear from them. Their story's very, very cool, not only about the weight loss and about what happened on the show with their health, but also about some very cool things that God did in their life and in the lives of people around them. They've got a very, very cool story. Now, we're going to hear from them for a little bit, and then I'm going to come up after we hear their story and do a little Q&A. So kind of a fun thing, if you're on Twitter, if that's something you use, my Twitter handle is @MicahYost. If you want to tweet me your questions during their story, I'd be happy to ask them a few of those when they're done. So we'll do a little live Q&A. Hit me up with your questions @MicahYost, and we'll do a few of those questions when they're done. But without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Mark and Buddy this morning.
Thanks, Michael. Well, good morning. I am Mark Cornelison. I was on season 13 of The Biggest Loser. This is my friend, Buddy Shuh.
Hello.
We don't want to make any assumptions, though. We've kind of figured out that there are people who have seen the show and people who haven't seen. We don't want to just assume that you guys know about it. So we kind of want to preface that, and so we need to give you an image so that you kind of get an idea where we started from. This is Buddy and I at the beginning of the season. So this, our actual video time when we found out we were going to make the show, started in September of 2011. So this is just over a year ago. I'm the really, really thin guy on there, okay? I was
thin
the
up top.
Smallest. Our relationship is interesting in this also. I was the smallest guy to ever have made the show at just under 300 pounds. So, we're not talking about The Amazing Race or something when the smallest contestant is 300 pounds. But, and then Buddy here started at 403. I can tell you that I started the show, I was on 4 different types of medication. I have a history of heart disease in my family. And was able to get rid of all of my meds. I have normal blood pressure, I have normal cholesterol, normal everything, feel totally different. Yeah, thank you.
My name's Buddy, and I just want to say, you can see this picture. I want to say that I blew my first chance. And I just want to say that I'm here today with an extraordinary tale about how God gave me a second chance. And what you're seeing today is through God's grace and the help of what He set up. If you look up my name, you're going to be looking up Buddy, but you'll find out my name is really Alan. And so my nickname came at birth. I feel like my father, like most dads, is a cruel person. And he went to my mom and he said, here's the deal, I like the names James and Alan. But since my dad's name's Alan, he goes, let's name him James Alan Shuh. But you see, moms can see right through the dad ploys. She goes, no, we're not going to do that, because she knew the nickname for James was Jim, and my dad was actually trying to name me Jim Shuh. Thank you, mothers, for having a heart for children and the common sense. So now that 11 million people have seen me as Buddy, I'll never go by anything else. So I weighed 403 pounds, and when God gave me my second chance, I stand before you, I've lost and kept off 130 pounds. These were the shorts I was wearing when I tried out for Biggest Loser last year, and it's an incredible difference. My blood pressure before I was medicated was 190 over 110, and I was on 3 kinds of medication. For 7 years, I used a CPAP machine so I could even breathe at night. And all that is gone. This year I went camping with my children because I could. I thank God for the second chance and for the ability to be here today just to tell you part of our story.
The thing that I love about the shorts is those things were laying all over the place on the ranch. So, but when I started losing all my weight, I was like, oh, look, new blankets. But no, they were actually Buddy's shorts.
This is church. We're supposed to be nice.
Oh, okay. I forgot. Yeah, okay. I want you guys to know that the story, if you came this morning, you're going, you know what, we want to find out about health or fitness or what do those guys eat or how do they work out. I really don't want to disappoint you, but that's not what we're going to talk about. If you have questions for us, we're happy to talk about those and to address that. But what God did in and through us on the show, through this transformation, through everything that we've gone through, that's the story. That's what matters most. And we loved when we were talking to the guys here at Christ Community about this God of second chances, is you're looking at two guys who we got a second chance. And the thing that's awesome about God is he's greater than the God of second chances. He's the God of third chances and fourth chances and infinite chances, because he desires so deeply that we know him and that other people know him as well, that he wants to do everything he can to pursue us. And we have an incredibly unique pursuing story that God has given us, but it's also one that's just been outstanding for the two of us to get to share.
One of the first things that people typically will come up and ask Mark and I is like, so how do you get on a reality show? Like, how does that work? And so I'll start out there with when I really started to go to God and say I needed a second chance. First off, my weight gain, just to kind of throw it out there. In 2005, I was weighing in at about 330 pounds. I had just drifted over the years. And in 2005, we went for our 20-week ultrasound for our second child. My wife and I were just excited, like all parents are. We were going to find out the gender. I was going to have a party that day. And instead of the party, I came home and the doctor says, there are severe issues. She's missing basically the insides of one half of her body is all messed up. There's no kidney, there's no spleen. She has a severe case of spina bifida and there are heart and brain issues. We give her a 60% chance to live to birth. And so my wife and I just did what we could. I was working, going to school full time and driving down to Children's Hospital every night for the remaining 20 weeks of the pregnancy. And then she was born. I remember when she born, maybe the greatest sound I had ever heard was when she first cried. Because I said, wow, she's alive. But 5.5 months later, our worst nightmare came to fruition when we were standing there in the Children's Hospital, and my wife and I just watched her take her last breath. And there was something inside of me. At that moment, honestly, it was difficult to breathe. It was like the things that happen automatically in your life were shutting down. And a few seconds later, they kind of kicked back on, and I would go, oh my gosh, like I've got to I've got to plan my own daughter's funeral. And I started going about the mechanics of life, but there was a part of me that shut down, and part of me said, eating and healthy living, that's so far beyond the scope of what's important in my life right now that I just forgot about it. And honestly, I just started eating all the time. I was turning to food rather than God. And within 2 years, I had gained 100 pounds. And I found myself at about 430 pounds. And then all of a sudden, one day, the light bulb finally goes off because I was actually praying, and I said, I just felt like there was something in me that was trying to analyze what it was that was so painful. And I said, it wasn't that she's gone because I believe that my daughter is with God. It was that I didn't get to do the father thing with her. And all of a sudden, I looked across the room, and I looked down, and I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old daughter. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna be dad to them. And I'm gonna be around in 25 years, and I'm gonna walk those girls down the aisle. So something turned on, and I said, God, I need your help. I have failed. Not second time, not third time, 20 times, 50 times. This is out of control in my life, and I need your help. I started getting on a weight loss plan, and I was down to, again, the starting weight was 403 pounds, when in July, my brother called me, and he says, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Biggest Loser is having a tryout at Gardner White Furniture. And I said, wow, nothing? Okay, I'll go. I'm not going to be on TV. That's weird. And but I haven't seen you in like 6 weeks, so I'll go and we'll just hang out. I think the first challenge of the show is actually standing in line for 7 hours by comfy recliners where you can't sit on them. I kept looking for like hidden cameras. I'm like, this is part of the deal. But sure enough, we find ourselves a couple months later. By the way, here's my prayer life to God. I say, God, here's the deal. I totally don't want this. A lot of people want to get on the show. They think I go, no, God, I want you to help me at home. Like, I've seen what they do to those people. I don't want that. Like, I don't even, when I go to the pool, take off my shirt in front of my friends. It's embarrassing. 11 million people, yeah, that's what I want to do. I go, God, I don't want this. But here's the deal. If in your love for me, this is something that you want to do, then I'll say yes. Because up to that point, I found that I was playing a game of hide and seek. You know, like my pictures on Facebook, I hid. I never put pictures of me because I was embarrassed. And all of a sudden, I started to realize that I was doing this with God. I was treating him like he was people, and I was hiding from him because I thought there was a punishment that was coming. And all of a sudden, this verse in the Bible jumped out into my heart, and it's when Christ says, I came to seek and to save that which was lost. He didn't come to point out the fact that you're lost and to condemn you for it. He's seeking, and he's looking for people who will open the door and say yes. And all of a sudden, I started to trust in God, and I said, if you open this door, God, I'll go. So a month after that initial thing where I found myself in California, they flew out 50 people, of which they were about to keep 20. They sequestered us in a hotel room. You know, we weren't allowed to even talk to the other contestants. This is kind of crazy. At the same moment in time that they're casting The Biggest Loser, on the same floor of my hotel room, on the other half of the floor, they're casting another TV show called America's Next Top Model. It was clear which we were trying out for. I was slightly concerned of the stability of the hotel floor. I'm going, what kind of demented people cast these two shows on the same floor? Seriously, like, this is just sick. So anyway, at the end of 2 weeks, we're down in this room, and all of a sudden, there's 16 of the 20 there, and they go, congratulations, you've been selected. You're going to be on season 13 of The Biggest Loser. And I just got really nervous. I was like, oh no. And I was like, you're doing it? I said I didn't want this. And I'm going, I think you're leading me here. God of second chances. I think you're opening this door, so I'm going to walk through it. And they said, here's the deal. You've got 3 hours. Call your family and say goodbye. In 3 hours, we're sending someone to your room. We're taking your phone, your computer. You'll have no TV. You'll have no access to the outside world until we say so again. And all of a sudden, life was a lot different.
And it's amazing how in that moment, we were sitting in that room, and I was on the show with my oldest son named Chisholm, who is 20 years old, and they call us down, and you know, we're in this room with all the people, and we don't really know. Every time they take you to a room with people, you didn't know whether this was it or whether this was it, you know. So we were sitting there, and in that moment, all of a sudden they come in and they say, congratulations, you're going to be on the show. And within a second of each other, I remember thinking in my head, oh my gosh, I cannot believe we just made this show. And then instantly it went, oh my gosh, I can't believe we just made this show. And it was just this panic that went over me. Because I knew, one, I was thankful that I had Chisholm there, but I was fixing to lose contact with my wife for who knows how long. I was convinced from the very beginning I wouldn't be there very long. Being the smallest guy, I thought, I'm going to go, I'll get some good tips, I'll get some good information, and then Chisholm will stay there and he'll get a lot of help and have fun, and he can do TV and all that kind of stuff. But still, even with that mindset, I was going, what am I doing? I'm suddenly being pulled out of everything that's a comfort to me. And so we had just before that moment, just before that day, we had where they called us down and they said, we're going to send you in this room. So we go in this room and they weigh us. And they say, okay, now that's your official weigh-in. So if you make the show, that's the number we're going to use. So from this point forward, you need to stop eating all the junk. You need to start working out. You can go down to the gym in the hotel. But everything we did was supervised. So we had to call and get people to take us to the gym and all that. And so Chisholm and I get back up to the room. We're like, okay, we got to start doing this. And so we call them and say, can you come take us to the gym? And they're like, yeah, we'll be there in 5 minutes, which in TV time means a couple of hours. And so we sit there, and finally they come to the door and they knock on the door, come on with us. And they say, now when you get on the elevator, there's going to be other contestants that are going to the gym as well, but you guys can't talk to each other. And so there was a whole reveal on camera, developing relationships for the world to see, so no talking. I was like, that's fine. I really don't want to talk to anybody anyway, so that was okay with me. And so Chisholm and I, the day that this happens to be in 2011 when the Detroit Tigers were about to start the American League Championship Series versus the Texas Rangers. I'm from just north of Houston. I love my Texas Rangers with all that I have. I'm even a pretty big fan of the minor league team, the Houston Astros down there as well. I just love baseball. So in honor of that, Chisholm and I are going to our gym, and he and I both are wearing Texas Ranger t-shirts. So we get onto the elevator, and sure enough, there's two guys that are obviously not for America's Next Top Model on the elevator with us. And, because I'm going to follow the rules, because that's the kind of person I am, I just nod at them, and then I turn and I face the front of the elevator. And then from behind me, I hear this, Texas Rangers, huh? And instantly I'm like, oh, please, no, not one of those people on this show. And then he says, sorry for what's going to happen to you guys tonight.
Go Tigers.
within about a second, I'm going, okay, this guy is a jerk. We're going to send him home quick. I don't even know who he is. And he's breaking the rules. We're not even supposed to talk, and the only thing he can think to say is something snotty about my Texas Rangers, right? And so I'm like, Chisholm and I get back to our room after our intense 15-minute workout, and we're like laying on the bed, just exhausted. And I'm like, what'd you think of that guy on the elevator? And Chisholm's like, that was rude. I don't know what that was all about. So we go to the show. They say, you've made it. We get on the show. You go down this long hallway on the Biggest Loser Ranch, and there's doors everywhere. And they say, okay, these are the rooms. We're going to assign you a room. You need to go into wherever we tell you. So they say, every room is like 2 beds and a bathroom. So they say, Chisholm and Mark, you guys are at the end of the hall. Y'all go down there, go in there. So we take all of our luggage in. They say, stay in your room. Don't go anywhere. Wait on us. We get in there, and we're sitting there, and we notice there's a bathroom. There's 2 beds, but there's also another door. So we open the other door, and there's 2 more beds. So Chisholm and I are excited because we're thinking, hey, we just scored the only room with 2 rooms. We get our own room. So we're talking about pushing the beds together, so we're going to be the only people on the ranch with like a queen-size bed, and everybody else has the twins and all that kind of stuff, until all of a sudden you hear this. I'm like, oh, no. So I open the door, and the Detroit Tiger guys are standing in the doorway, right? And so they're like, yeah, they told us we're supposed to be in an extra room that you're in. And in God's own way, in his own wonderful sense of humor, what began in that elevator, suddenly we became roommates. And the first week of the show, Buddy's brother Ben goes home. So suddenly Buddy's there by himself. So for a period of time, it's Buddy and Chisholm and I that are rooming together. Well, then over another period of time on another one of the episodes, Chisholm goes home. So suddenly it's just Buddy and I. The only 2 pastors to be on the show together. The only season that they've had 2 pastors on the show. And they put us in the same room. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't think they knew what they were doing with that. I love this shot of Buddy and I because, this really was a pretty common thing. God really orchestrated our relationship, orchestrated our friendship, because he knew that for what we were about to endure, we needed each other. And while, the story of how we met is fun to talk about, I don't think it gives you the real depth of us and our relationship together. So I'll kind of put together a real short video clip. So I'd invite you to watch this video and to give you a little taste of kind of how God formed things so quickly with us.
Get it! Let's go, Roy! And with Roy, that's it! The red team has won this challenge!
That was close. Damn it. Hard work. Oh, man. Not knowing what's going on at home is the hardest part about being on the ranch. Joe was so homesick that he went home. That should show how everybody else here is feeling. We're not far off from him. The only difference is we're not willing to lose this opportunity for it.
I can't talk to my family without having Chisholm right there with me. I want to give it to Chisholm.
Obviously, this prize was amazing.
Yeah, it was.
I saw so many levels of emotion. Mark, you made a decision out there to pass your video off to Chisholm. Why'd you do that?
I've really struggled the last few weeks with just being homesick. Well, I've been married for 22 years, and my wife and I've never had a time where if we were away from each other, we couldn't at least communicate. So this is 3 weeks in, but Chisholm's got a girlfriend at home that he really misses. I know that he's missing his mom, and I wanted him to have it, so.
I kind of identify with Mark. I'm all about my family, spend lots of time. That's partly why I'm here, because I want to be around a long time. And so I miss him, but I have decided that I'm giving my reward to Mark. He's my friend, so I can sacrifice that for him. I want them to be a whole family. I really miss my wife and kids, but I know in Mark's heart what it would mean for him to be able to get together as a family.
I have to do this. Yeah, I do.
I'm just completely overwhelmed because I didn't expect that. I didn't ask for that.
You need this.
Buddy, I can never repay you. This is one of the greatest things anybody's ever done for me, so thank you.
At that moment, it had been like probably a week in a row that in the morning before we were shooting on camera, Mark was coming to me with a hurt. We had really not seen our wives for about 5 weeks, and every day he kept coming to me and he goes, buddy, I'm really struggling. I really miss my wife. So when I saw him give away the right to see and talk to his wife, to his own son, I go, what a hero. And all of a sudden, I had been praying for him and asking God to help him, and all of a sudden inside I heard this little voice, and it says, you should give yours to him. I was like, no. I prayed for him. I was like, oh no, like he likes the Rangers. Are you kidding me? What in the world? And I knew what I had to do, and I gave him the rights to see his wife, and I'm so glad. It's part of our friendship now. It was like the way that we give what we have to each other is part of God's plan, and I never even saw it coming. Now, before I went on the show, I was talking with my wife. You see, I had a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old at home, and my wife was pregnant. And so I went to her and I said, what do you think about this? This is crazy. And she came to me after about a week. She had been praying and just thinking about it because that's crazy to leave home with that. And she goes, buddy, I was reading John 4, and this verse just jumped off the page at me. And it's Jesus, and he says, it's talking about Jesus, and it says, and he needed to go through Samaria. And it's talking about this moment in time where Jesus had this destiny-type moment with a woman at the Samaritan well. But if you follow where Jesus was going, Samaria was the out-of-the-way place. It was inconvenient. And she says, I really feel like God's using this to talk to me and saying, you need to go through your Samaria. There's this inconvenient place that you have to go, and I want you to go. And it was like a week later. She knows I'm really a Star Wars geek. And she came up to me and she goes, hey, I saw this online. It says here that in order to become a Jedi, every Jedi in training has to overcome their obstacle. That's what I think this is. And I'm like, when you use Star Wars analogies to motivate me, do you know how hot you are? Married women, take that, run with it, all right? So I felt like by God even speaking through her and the other pastor at my church, like he was saying, go. Trust me, this is your second chance. I'm doing this. I know you don't want it, but you really do, and you just don't know it yet. I'm going to create all these circumstances, all the people you need, all the resources you need. I'm orchestrating everything. You just go where I'm saying to go. And so all of a sudden, I find myself on that ranch, and I'm walking up, and Samaria, for me, is a place of pain, the inconvenient place. People always ask us now, so is the working out, is it hard? Yeah. Have you seen it? Right? The pre-qualification for being on the show is being horrifically out of shape. And then you do a 3-hour workout. Okay? The first workout, I love to tell, it was just the worst thing I've ever been through. I played football, I wrestled, and it was just the worst thing. I remember it was like a 3-hour workout. I only made it 45 minutes, and conveniently, because they know what they're doing to you, they have these white buckets around that you can conveniently get. I remember running over to one of those, and they see you. So I had a cameraman running from here to zoom in, and a cameraman from the side. And I'm going, I had this thought, this is not how I envisioned my national debut on TV. It was horrific. Halfway through the workout, I look around, literally half of the contestants, 9 out of 18, are either unconscious or throwing up. If you saw in the video, there was a guy in our season looked exactly like Santa Claus. I mean, we just call him Santa. And I look over, he's on the ground, and he's making I don't know, in the Bible, there's that old Jewish ram's horn. He's making that noise. And I look over and I see Santa, and I'm going, oh my God, they killed Santa. This is so wrong. What are the kids gonna, this is a family show? I'm sure. And Also in that show, forever etched in my memory, is what a hard workout is. Because my friend Jeremy, who wound up being the Biggest Loser, he won the show. He comes up to me after. He didn't throw up. He didn't faint. But he comes up to me and he goes, you know what, buddy? Here's the deal. This is how you know it's a hard workout. Halfway through the workout, he goes, I looked over and I saw someone. They were unconscious. And I was jealous because they're getting a break. That is a hard workout. I'm just like, there's no vagueness about that, okay? So if you're ever there, okay? So anyway, here's what I want to say. Samaria, when God leads you there, everything's not going to be exactly as you could see. This was not like all fun and games. Like you think, oh, it's great you're on TV. Okay, but I don't have a TV there. I'm not watching myself on TV. I'm just working out all the time. It was a place I was in pain quite a bit. My body's going through soreness. You know what's harder than the first day of workouts? The second day of workouts. When you worked out 6 hours the first day and you're walking down the stairs like this and then you got to do it again. And then 150 days in, you got to do it again and again. It was a very hard place. And emotionally, it was a place of pain as well. It was a place where I go, God, I'm trusting in your goodness. I'm trusting this is a chance you're giving me. And even though I can't see all that you're doing, I'm believing you're doing it. And so I'm going to go through it. I'm going to stay here in Samaria until you say to go. Now, I want to say this, just with the pain, there's that transition. Change can be a little bit difficult. If you're going to make these, give yourself to God. If you're going to present yourself to him and let him change you. There was also just awesome memories that I made. Like just glimmers of hope and rays, like in the midst of the darkness where he says, I know you just needed this. So 3 months before I tried out for the show, I was leading a college-age Bible study in my home, and I asked him, if God gave you $10,000 and you had to selfishly spend it on yourself, how would you spend it? And they said, well, what about you? I said, well, I've always wanted to go to Hawaii. I'd go to Hawaii. 6 months after that Bible study, I'm sitting across from Allison Sweeney, of all people, and she says, NBC for the first time has decided to fly all of you out to Hawaii. All expense paid, flights, best hotel in Waikiki, all the food, and we're going to pay you $100 a day to go to Hawaii. And I just remember in my heart saying, God, this is you. I know you picked Hawaii because you knew I know you're just in your love giving me this awesome opportunity of a lifetime. First day we're in Hawaii, I walk down to the beach, and Bob and Dolvette are standing there, and I look up and I see 8 surfboards. And I'm like, you've got to be joking me. 8 chubby people going to surf? Yeah, right. I don't know who comes up with the things for this show, but it's a mean, skinny person. It is not an overweight person. We don't do this to each other. I'm trying to envision my body trying to surf and all this. And Dolvette says, here's the deal. We don't know how to surf, so we got someone in to help you. And I look out at the ocean, and surfing in on a surfboard is a young lady with one arm. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Bethany Hamilton, the soul surfer, a 13-year-old girl whose arm was bitten off by a shark, and she felt like God said, go. Take your second chance. You're still going to be a surfer. She's surfing in, and she gives me personal instructions. So my dream of going to Hawaii never included learning how to surf from Bethany Hamilton, but it was part of it. It was part of the plan that God had for me. I had a funny moment, though. I had a stress fracture in my knee, and the medic comes up to me, and he says, hey, buddy, here's the deal. You're not cleared to surf because the bouncing of the waves is going to mess with your knee. I said, okay. He's like, so what I want you to do is paddle on your belly out there, wave to the camera, give America a nice smile, and then just paddle back. I said, okay, no problem, right? Except for there's a problem. And that as I'm paddling out, Bethany Hamilton comes up right next to me, and she goes, hey, buddy. I go, hey, Bethany Hamilton, this is kind of weird. And she's like, this beach, 70% of the people who surf here their first time don't get up. It's difficult. But today, you're going to get up. You're going to surf. And I'm like, oh, man, do I tell the girl whose arm was bitten off by a shark, who still surfs, that my knee is hurting? I'm not going to feel like I have any testosterone left if I tell her what the medic said. So all 8 of us surfed that day, and it was just a wonderful experience that I feel like God gave me in my life, even the dark places, beautiful light that God gave me.
It's crazy because if you saw that, I mean, all of us that ended up going, it was our first time to Hawaii. So that was an amazing experience for us. And it was almost like because of all that we had been going through, that was just this really cool moment to get to share that first time experience together. But then any of you guys that watched, a little later on, we went to the White House and we actually we met the First Lady, and they brought in our families, and it was just, you're in this room that you see on TV when they're talking to people that aren't you, okay? And we're just looking around. There was a room that they had us in at the White House where this sword is hanging on the wall, and it's all surrounded by this protective glass stuff. So I go walking over to it, and it says, "This is the sword that Washington carried across the Potomac," in that picture that we all see in our history textbooks. And I'm like, this far from, I mean, some incredibly surreal moments that we've had with this. And while those were incredibly rewarding, and I'm so thankful, we're both so thankful for those, can I show you what I really think that God had us there for? The thing that really was the most impactful was this. The people that were there. We knew going into this that, okay, you're going to be on TV, and it's going to be a lot of people watch this and all this kind of stuff. But we had no idea the impact it was going to make on us or on the other people that were there. How each one of these people touched our lives. And this is just a small portion of all the guys that we got to know and connect with on the show. But one thing that was really apparent very quickly was that God put us in this place not just for ourselves, even though there was a lot of push, hey, do this for you. We were there because God was going, I got bigger plans than this. And it starts right here in this house for you guys. Let me read. Matthew chapter 6 says this. "Do not be worried about your life as to what you're going to eat or what you're going to drink, nor for your body as to what you're going to put on. Is not life more than food and your body more than clothing?" Is that not like a perfect Biggest Loser verse ever? "Look at the birds of the air, that they do not sow or reap or gather in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not worth much more than they are?" There's another verse in Philippians chapter 1 that says, "I am confident of this very thing, that he who began a good work in you will perfect it until the day of Christ Jesus." Christ was telling me and Buddy and all of us over and over, you know what? You need to stop worrying about stuff. You're here. I have you exactly where I want you to be because I'm perfecting you. I'm working in you. And I'm working in you so that I can work through them. And I'm working through them so that I can work in you. And it all of a sudden, it became this completely freeing experience, guys, to say, okay, God, whatever you want. And I got to warn you, if you say, God, whatever you want, you kind of stepping out of the equation, all right? Now, that's a facade I think a lot of us have, is that we ever think we were actually in the equation, right? The way the show went on episode 9, by the way the show was put together, the unthinkable happened, and my son Chisholm went home. He wasn't voted off. He was very popular. He was doing a great job. It was just the way things worked with the challenge, and all of a sudden, Chisholm is gone. From the moment I got there, I never thought I'd be the one that would be there by myself. I always thought it'd be him. And all of a sudden, he's gone. I have no control over it. There was nothing I could do. I tried to give myself up for him. I tried to say, let me go, I'll go home, let him stay. And they were like, we can't do that. Legally, we can't do that. And I had to just come to grips with the fact that God was going, you know what? You got to let this go. I know what I'm doing. You said to let me do whatever, so I'm doing whatever. So the next day, I'm doing interviews and all this kind of stuff, and I'm just an emotional wreck. I mean, it's just terrible. And there's a stat about the show that says that when a child and a parent are there on the show, if the child goes home first, the parent typically goes the next time they can. So typically the next week or whatever that is, just because the parent just goes, I'm done. And I was totally feeling that. I was ready to be done. I'll be honest, I don't care what I had told God. I was done, right? And so I get done with all my interview stuff, and they get me done first because they want to get all the emotion and everything, and they knew that they could make me cry real easy. And so I was like Buddy all the time. I don't know what happened there.
I have a heart. I guess that's what happened.
Oh, is that what it is?
It rubs off, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were just a wimp. But anyway.
Hey.
So we get done with our interviews, and they say, Mark, you can go do whatever you want to do. You can go work out or whatever. And I didn't tell any of the other cast guys. I didn't tell anybody. I took off, and we had this mountain kind of deal that we would climb called Inspiration Point, and I just went up to Inspiration Point all by myself. And I get to the top of this thing, and I'm looking over these mountains in Southern California, and it's just an unbelievable sight. And I mean, you just get up there, and you feel so refreshed, and I was not refreshed at all. And I was there all alone, looking over the Biggest Loser Ranch and all this, and I just let God have it. I just told him everything I was feeling. I told him I wasn't impressed with this, that I was sick of this, that I was done with everything. I made it very clear to him that I had written out a clear agenda, and he was supposed to have read it and followed it, and somehow or another he wasn't doing that, right? I had these great plans, and so I told him how desperately I missed my family, how My heart was just broken that he would take my son away, that he would leave me out on this show. And I just was going, I'm done. And I literally am crying and just on my knees in the dirt of the top of this mountain. And the peace that came over me was just overwhelming. And he didn't speak to me. It wasn't like I heard a voice or the bush caught on fire, but there was no doubt that the presence of God was right there on me. And in that moment, I remembered what I had said over and over in my interviews was the fact that I knew that because of where I had gotten physically, I was not able to be the pastor that I needed to be. I was not able to be the husband that I needed to be or the father that I needed to be. And for me to give up and leave, not only would I be walking away from God's plan and his design of this thing, but to give up quickly would also keep me in that place where I wasn't able to be effective for him. So he brings me to this passage in Matthew 6 and he says, don't worry, I got this. And I get up, and I can't tell you guys, I walked down that thing that day, and I was like, I'm not going to be a statistic. I'm going to stick this thing out as long as I possibly can, and I'm going to do what's right by this. And it was the beginning of God going, you know what? There's a couple of things that I want to make sure that you understand. I got some things that I want to teach you out of this. Number one is not to worry. Another thing was the value of people. This is Chisholm, my oldest that was there on the show. This is Jeremy. Jeremy and all of us became incredibly good friends. If you didn't see the show, Jeremy actually won the whole thing. He won $250,000, lost almost 200 pounds, 199 pounds. All right, so he lost me. That's what I tell people when I'm with him. If I stand next to him and I'm like, this was Jeremy before, that's Jeremy after. So that's about where he was. Right? Jeremy is an amazing young man and one of the people that we got to benefit from getting to know on the ranch. One of the ways that we got to benefit by knowing him is that God said, okay, I want you to focus on a couple of things. I want you to know this. First thing I need you to do, Mark, is I need you to know that knowing me is above all else. There's only two things that I care about. First one is that you know me. So God takes everything away from me. He takes my family, he takes my comfort, he takes my church, he ends up taking my son, and he says, I want it to be nothing but you and me because knowing me matters more than anything else. If you really want this chance, right? If you really want this second chance, then you've got to get rid of everything else and know that knowing me is the number one thing. But then I want to tell you something else. The second thing that's important is making sure other people know about me as well. And I've put you in a very unique place in California. I don't know about you guys. I'm Texas all the way, okay? I'm born and raised in Texas. I am not California, right? And I felt very awkward and uncomfortable out there. And I love when God puts us in places sometimes. I like when God puts y'all in places where it's awkward and comfortable. I don't like that for myself personally, but, you know. And suddenly he's put me out there and he says, you know what? You have the opportunity to show other people who I am. And that's what really matters. That's what's important. Buddy and I started a thing in the second week called Blurch. Blurch is our creative name for church, Biggest Loser Church. And so he and I, both being pastors, got together and said, what if we just did church every week? What if we talked? And we're like, yeah, let's try it. So we said to everybody, Sunday nights, there's no interviewing, there's no cameras, nothing. So we're going to do church every Sunday night. The first week, I think 5 of the contestants showed up. The next week, all of the contestants that were left were there. The next week, all of the contestants and some of the production people were there. Everybody kept coming, and more people started showing up to the church. And guys, you know what church was? Reading a little bit from Scripture and praying for each other. We literally had from the beginning people that were going, I don't really buy into this, but you're all in this room, and so I'll sit here with you. Had somebody that said at one point, I really don't believe in prayer, but since you're going to do it anyway, I'm kind of hurting, so would you do? You know, it's like God just started opening these doors, right? And early on with Jeremy, he comes and he says to Buddy and I, he says, you know what, guys, I got to tell you, I really don't believe in God. In fact, my grandmother passed away. I broke her heart before she died, and I told her I don't believe in God. And it was really hard for her, but I just had to be honest with her. And so he said, I want to be honest with y'all. I'm going to come to Blurch, but it's because I respect both of you guys, and I really like Chisholm, and I may fall asleep, but I'm at least going to come. And Buddy and I both went, come on, that's great. So the entire time, Jeremy is coming to Blurch. End of the season comes, all of us go home. Buddy decides to have this big thing at his church. He calls me and says, hey, I want to bring you up. I want you to preach at my church. And I'm going to try to get contestants there. So 13 of the contestants show up at his church between the finale and when we actually went home. Big gathering at his church, really great day. I get up, I get to share the truth from Scripture. Buddy gets up and he shares the gospel. He says, just like on The Biggest Loser, we have to get up on this scale and take off our shirts in front of America, and that's like the way things start for us, right? That's the admission for us, which then later, when you start looking good, you put a shirt on. I don't understand. Anyway, that's
So mean.
reality TV. You gotta love it. But so he says, just like that, we're not gonna do every head bowed, every eye closed. We're not gonna have you go to the back and talk. If you say today is the day that you know that you need Christ in your life as the Savior of your life, you want to receive His grace, then we're gonna ask you when the music plays, we want you to stand up. So I'm sitting on the front row and I'm like listening to this and I'm praying. I'm just praying for the people that are there. And so the music starts and instantly, man, I hear my wife sitting back behind me and she starts crying. And I'm like, oh yes, people standing up. That's like the greatest thing in the world, right? And then I notice that Chisholm is crying and he's sitting right next to me. And I hear my wife moving and I sit up and I look back and Jeremy is standing up. He said, after everything that he had seen in us and everything that had happened throughout the course of this thing, he didn't have a choice but to go, I got to have Christ in my life. People ask us all the time, would you do it again? And I say, for that one thing, absolutely, I would do it again. Because nothing matters more than that moment when we were sitting in that place in Wayne, Michigan, and Jeremy Britt stands up to say, I want to be a part of the kingdom of God. I want to give my life to Christ.
Not only is God the God of second chances for us, where we stand before you today, where He came through. He was our ever-present help in times of trouble, where we turn to Him with our weight. He's helped me to take off and keep off over 130 pounds. I can't tell you really what that means. But He's the God of second chances for one of my best friends in the world, Jeremy Britt, who started out my relationship saying, I don't believe in God, and ended our relationship saying, we're brothers for all eternity. That to me is the ultimate in second chances. You know, I want to just kind of wrap up with this thought. For wherever you're at, I remember going back right before we were actually selected for the show, they had us do this very strange but interesting interview where I had to sit down and look at the camera, and I had to speak in faith to my future self. They said, we want to tape this now where you're speaking to yourself at the finale, and you have to pretend you're down over 100 pounds, and we want you to speak to that. Tell him what it was like. Remind him what it was like when you were back here. And honestly, when I tried, I couldn't. I broke. Honestly, when I was sitting there, I didn't know if I had it in me to do what it was. I was trying to outweigh my past failure to God giving me this new chance. And so it was very difficult to see the success, much less all this extra stuff that God was doing, much less this thought in faith that wherever you're at right now, can I just say that His plans are even bigger than what you could imagine just you being successful? Because He loves other people so much, He wants to do such a work that it's going to help other people. I've actually been witnessing it in my own life, to my own disbelief. In my weakness, He's been made strong. Things that I have gone through that He has comforted me in, I'm now actually able to go up to other people. I never would have thought this. In Michigan now, just recently, I've become the president of a new chapter of the Tears organization. After going through what I went through with my daughter, Tears, you know what they do? They raise funds to help people pay for caskets, grave markers, and grief counseling if you've lost an infant. Do you know what it is to be able to go up to someone who has just had that moment in their life and say, I know what you're going through, and you don't have to pay for a thing? That's grace. That's coming to the rescue. And then how about with health? How about I was the heaviest person on a heavy person show? That's embarrassing. And then how about when I came back, I was praying one day and I felt like God says, you're going to actually help other people get physically healthy. And I said, well, that's crazy, but okay. And so I went into the mayor's office of the local city, and I went up to them and I said, hey, I know you have this health program, and I don't know if it means anything to you, but I would like to volunteer to endorse it. A woman, a clerk in the mayor's office, leapt up and yelled, God works in mysterious ways. I agree, but what are you talking about? And she's like, we've had this program for 2 years. We think it's an awesome program. It's stagnant. We thought we needed to revamp it. We met last week, and we thought it needed a face, and we thought that was you. And you showed up the next week to volunteer. God is doing this all the time. And so the thing that you're thinking, can I even be successful? God wants to help you. He came to seek and save that which was lost. And his plan is even bigger than even what you could imagine. He's going to do it in your life, and he's going to help you to help others. So I want to encourage you, don't keep your eyes fixed on the thing that is the problem now. Keep your eyes fixed on Christ and who he is, and imagine to yourself, what could happen if you started saying, God is for me, and he who did not withhold his own son is graciously going to help me through this? I put the weight on myself. I felt like I owned that responsibility, and I said, God, I need your grace anyway. Will you please help me? And you know what? He did, and he's helping other people through it.
Only thing I can add to that, guys, God's grace is greater than anything that you think would keep you from God. He is a God of second chances. This is your time. Don't keep putting it off and going, when's going to be that moment? Whatever that thing is for you, maybe it's health, maybe it's not, maybe it's a whole different issue. But the truth and values that we found in Scripture that taught us so much through our experience apply to everyone, because God's grace and his love is for every single one of you. Thank you so much for letting us come here today.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Appreciate that a lot. Man, what an awesome story. What an awesome story, not only of you guys and what happened in your lives, but just in the people around you and the things that God did. That's so cool. Man, we got just a couple of minutes, and I got so many questions from Andy and Megan and Melissa and Angie and Brian and Ryan and Christina and all these other people. So I promise if we got your questions and I don't get to them, these guys are they'll hit them up in another way, and we'll get it pushed out so you get answers to your questions. Okay, so one big thing, if people watch the season, the burning question is, where did you guys go? Because we got almost to the end, and then you guys left, and I learn everything from the internet. So if you Google it, there's all kinds of stuff swirling around there. So what's the truth? What really happened?
Yeah, in case you didn't see the show, it was an 18-week season. Week 16, an issue came up that where Buddy and I left, and we walked off of the show. Became this huge deal. We were actually called by TMZ, and it's weird. I don't know. I'm a pastor. I don't do that kind of stuff. But anyway, I can tell you this. Two things that I want to make sure you understand. One is that there's a lot of controversy around it saying we broke contracts and we were we didn't do what we were supposed to do. There's nothing with that. That's not true. We are totally under contract, which is part of the reason that we can't just go in to explain everything that happened, because we are still under contract, and we honor that, and we say, okay, we're not gonna step into that. But it was an issue for both of us where morally in our faith we go, you know what, we just couldn't stand and go, okay, we're gonna let you do that and act like that's okay for the sake of winning $250,000. The other thing is, a lot of things that we hear is that people go, well, everybody was mad because the former contestants were coming back. We were right there at the end, and they were bringing them back. And I can tell you this, just to help people that are thinking about that, is Buddy's brother Ben was going to get another shot by being one of those contestants. My son was going to get another shot. That was not the issue for why we walked away. But I do want to be able to say this. Whenever somebody says, why did you guys quit? I always say the same thing. We didn't quit. We left. Because the reason that we both went to the show was to get our lives back, was to get healthy and to get fit. And we totally did that. Mm-hmm. That was the purpose. If you want to know why we quit, then you're talking about $250,000. You're talking, and I understand the passion behind that. And it's a game show and all of that. But for us, it was a bigger thing than that. So yes, we did leave. But as men, especially being pastors, we just felt like it was more important to stand up for what we felt was going against what we say is right and true and important than to stay there and act like we supported it.
Yeah, and we're actually on great relationship with NBC and Biggest Loser. We love it. we're going to promote it, and they called us. They said, hey, would you go out to the casting call in Detroit, buddy, and encourage those people standing in line? And I said, yes. There's 600 people. Maybe 2 will make the show. I want to help the 598. So we're in good relationships, Mark and I. March 18th is the finale. We're both going to be there. I asked, we got a ticket. We'll be, on camera there in the alumni section. So things are good. We appreciate them. They appreciate us. And it was just like a little tiff.
Awesome. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Okay, so we got time for maybe one more question. For you guys, your big challenge was weight, right? Mm-hmm. And we just heard your story and how that was a challenge. You guys, buddy, you kind of talked about, hiding from God and through that. And there's maybe a lot of people listening today, and that is their challenge as well. There's maybe a lot of people listening, and they've got a similar challenge. Maybe it's not weight, but maybe it's something else, mm-hmm. something else in their life that just seems like such a daunting task, such a big thing. And no matter what it is, we're all looking at it thinking, where do I even start? I mean, how do I even go about tackling this thing in my life that I know needs to change? Is there any advice you could give to people that how to get started, how to move forward on something like that?
Yeah, I guess I'll start with that. There's a passage in the Bible that Jesus is saying, he's making this analogy, and he says, I am the vine and you are the branches. And I kind of see it, this vine with a branch in. And the help that you need, I want to say that you got to stay connected to God and to people. Those 2 things that Mark was talking about. And so my advice is to get in this daily reading that he's talking about, this 1-year Bible. But here's the deal. Be asking God specifically in that area. Say, God, give me some verses. And here's my advice, that part of that vine branches, when you think God gives you a verse, put it up in your house. Put it up on your bathroom mirror, and every morning be looking at it. Let the Word of God breathe and speak to you, and then also include other people. Because maybe subconsciously you have stuff you need to work through and you can't even see it. And part of the way God works is he has these things called gifts. Isn't it interesting that the Bible says that he gives to some this gift and to some this gift? Do you know that just because you need something doesn't mean he gives it directly to you? Sometimes he gives it to another person to give to you. And so I just want to say, be open to God giving you through the Bible and through other people. Connect yourself in these small groups. I'm all about these Journey Connect groups. Yes, let other people have a role in your life. Let them speak into your life and help you out. That is part of God's plan for the best you and the best 2013, the best health. That is the best advice I can give you.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd say real quickly is I haven't really had anything in my life where God has sat down with me at the kitchen table and given me the full map of what's going to happen. He tends to give me a little bit at a time. For whatever that thing is with you, guys, it's a decision at a time. It's a moment at a time. God wants to walk through every single step of that with you. Because if we think we know the path, then we don't really need him. We'll just follow what he's written. But what he wants is to engage us. He wants relationship with us. And so that may mean for you, it's every decision is one that you're having to take before him. And the ones that you succeed in and you go, you know what say food, I ate really good that time. God, thanks for giving me the strength for that. And the next time, you don't eat so good. There's grace. Show yourself that grace. But then the next time, make that decision again. There's no more starting over on Mondays, okay? There's no more starting over in 2014. There's no more starting over. The starting over is the next time you get to make a decision about whatever that thing is that's facing your life. We in the church are very good sometimes about showing grace to other people. We're terrible about showing it to ourselves. And I think God wants each one of us to understand that and to begin to accept his grace and show ourselves that grace as well.
That's really good. It's really good. Wait, can we thank these guys one more time for being here this morning?
Thank you.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it.